you feeling? Tu as voice cut. This is a podcast that you're going to love.
Hey, what's happening? This is your host Tinto, and we're back for another episode of the Feeling Station podcast. But before we get into that space, just want to give a shout out to everybody that got me a coffee, starting with you, Rude Boy Gaming Studios. Thank you, man, bro. You are like a real one. 3 solid coffees, and your comment there reads, as always, keep up the great work. Appreciate you, man. Next up, I got Nyararai Mutamangira. And your comment there reads, been listening to episodes 95 to 100, Love, Pain and Women. This is a mud thing, Tinto. But this coffee is for my partner who is officially addicted to TFS and gets jealous every time you give a shout out. Laugh. Thanks, Nyararai. Next up, I got Rue. Man, thank you so much for your generous contribution. Your comment there reads, I love this podcast. The lessons are everything. A major help with navigating my own relationships. Thanks, Tinto. Rue, you are welcome. The next up, Rudo Kusak. Thank you so much. Your comment there reads, hi, I just heard your episode 199. I am a licensed mental health counselor in the US. I've been looking to work with people back home in Zim, and I'm hoping to connect to those that may need help with trauma and family dynamics. My email is ... Rudo, thank you very much. And I know you got in touch with my guest, and I hope something fruitful really came out of that connection. Last but not least, Cassie, thank you so much for your coffee, and your comment there reads, the Giggles and Grief episode was so triggering because of my own issues with my parents. I learned a lot from it too. Tinto, thank you so much. Hey man, you guys are a real blessing to me. You have no idea. If you'd like to support the podcast you've grown to love in a similar way, please head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/feeling station and give as your spirit leads. Remember, there is nothing too small to support the podcast that you've grown to love. With that out of the way, let's get straight into this week's episode.
Is that a breakup?
I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello?
Yo, what's up?
Hi, Tinto.
Hopefully we will have better luck this time round.
I hope so too.
Right, so just to get the ball rolling, welcome to the Feeling Station.
Thank you so much for having me, Tinto.
You are welcome. For those listening to the podcast for the first time, it's a romantic family and friendship breakup podcast showcasing stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give you lessons from their experiences. Now, I hope you find today's story entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful. And the podcast is popular for 2 main reasons. The first being I do my best to keep my guests anonymous, which brings me to the part that I give you the name that you're going to use for the duration of this episode. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Cool. I've gone over to Burundi, and the name that I'm giving you, I was a little disappointed with this because I expected a more Burundi name, but it came up with the name called Aisha, which is Aisha, and what that means is full of life or lively.
Interesting.
Yeah. Would you describe yourself as full of life, lively, and bubbly and all that?
Sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah. When you're not doing Jolo things, yeah. Cool. And then what are you calling the name of the person that you're talking about today?
Okay, so we're going to name this guy Chomi.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was an inside joke of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And Chomi means friend.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what my BFF calls me. They call me Chomi.
And I hope you're nothing like this person in question.
Listen, I'm a damn good Chomi on all. No, we've been Chomis for over 30 years now, so I think that's
beautiful.
Yeah, I think that says something at least. I think it says
Definitely.
something.
It is.
And the second reason why this is really popular is people walk away with real life lessons. So what would you like anybody listening to your episode today to walk away with?
Okay. So the first lesson would be never keep a relationship a secret.
Oh, yeah.
It should be private, but not a secret.
100%. I'm all about that view. Thanks. You got any other lessons?
Yes, I've got several. Never downplay your intuition. So that little voice that whispers to you about different things, listen to it.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Your gut. Should never be wrong with that. Third lesson?
Okay. And the third one is actually one of my favorites is manage your expectations.
Amen. When you're dealing with humans, yeah, don't be building no castles in the sky and all that. Manage your expectations. I like that.
Exactly.
I like that.
And to give you a bit of background as to why I particularly like this lesson, it's because Tony always used to say it. Like every time he would say this.
So he was actually telling you to...
Yes, Tinto.
Now I see why you'd also have lesson number 2 to say don't downplay your intuition, because every time we're telling you to manage your intuition, your expectations, your intuition is probably saying to you, hey, listen to this, because the guy is telling you as it is. Yeah?
Exactly. So the full lesson would be manage your expectations. Not all relationships will lead to marriage.
Yeah, nice.
Some will take you to different restaurants. Now, this is something that he would always say.
Well, I've got 3 lessons. Do you have any more, or it's just those 3 now?
I've got more.
Oh, you got more? Wow.
Yes, I've got more.
Yeah. Okay, fire away.
All right. And the fourth one would be when a person speaks, listen. Half of the time, a person tells you who they are in random conversations.
Yep. Agree with that.
Yeah. And then the fifth one is how a person treated the ex is how they will treat you, and how they speak of them will be the same of you. So be mindful of their dating history. You will learn a lot.
Yay! You know, I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay.
Because people change.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
People I dated when I was in high school versus people I dated in uni and in my early adulthood and where I am now are all very different individuals. And I know for a fact I'm a different individual myself too. So yes, I agree with that. I like that a lot. It's just that I think for some people, myself included, it does change. There's some things I would say of my exes then I wouldn't say now, because I know better.
Okay.
And and some things that I would do in the past with certain exes I don't do now, again because I know better. But yeah, it's a useful one to give those who are still walking the journey and they're not really confident in what they want out of a relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Do you have any more?
Yes, I do.
How many do you have in total?
Well, okay. So 3 more.
Okay. Right, fire away.
And then the next lesson would be women should look out for each other, just like men do.
Okay. Yeah, okay, cool. Nice.
Yeah. And then avoid self-blame. Ghosting is a reflection of the other person's inability to communicate. It's got nothing to do with your worth or your value. And someone who ghosts lacks the maturity to handle a proper conversation.
Oof, jeez. Nice. This is a lot, but I like it.
All right. And the next one would be don't chase after them. We should resist reaching out repeatedly for answers. If a person chooses to disappear, it is likely they won't provide the closure that you need.
Yeah.
And often closure comes from within, not from the other person who hurt you.
Hey, geez, you know what?
Yes.
This is something that we all learn, I think, along the way. There's actually I'm going to shout out one of my really good friends from high school. Her name is Marcy. Shout out Marcy if you're listening to this. There's a video that she had on a profile once upon a time, and all it basically said was shout out to everybody that was able to move on without closure.
Exactly.
Because I don't think those people get enough credit. We try and owe it to the other person to help us get closure, but it really starts from within.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, so I really like that. I may not have worded it exactly as you said because it was quite a mouthful and I'm trying to play catch up with how fast you're speaking, but I think I got it paraphrased just right. And your 9th one?
Okay. And my ninth one would be healing is not linear.
Mm-hmm.
Ups and downs are normal.
Mm-hmm.
And tell you what, I still have my lows, but every day is different. Hence, patience is required on the healing journey.
Oh, you couldn't have said it any better.
Mhm.
I often have debates with friends who say, time is not really a healer. It just makes you forget, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, being able to forget is actually healing.
Yeah.
If there's something that used to be so painful that if you try and remember now, you can't put the details together, kudos. The body is actually showing you that it's managing to make some progress somewhere.
Exactly.
Nice. Forgive me if I don't get
And then my
these.
last one.
Oh, okay, yeah. This better be a fire story, my friend, because 10 lessons is not a joke.
All right. So the last one would be don't hide your pain. Talk about it with family or friends, and just find a safe space to talk about it.
Amen. Especially, if there are men listening to this, have that outlet.
Exactly.
It really does help.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Is that all? Is that all of them?
Yes.
Right. Wish me luck with the playback. If I mess it up, I'm sorry. Right.
Okay.
But number one, never keep a relationship a secret. It should be private, but not a secret. Number two, never downplay your intuition, that little voice that whispers to you about different things. Listen to it. Number three, manage your expectations. Not all relationships would lead to marriage. Number four, when a person speaks, listen. Half of the time, they will tell you who they are in random conversations. Number five, how a person treats their ex is how they will treat you, and how, excuse me, and how they are with you is and how they were with them is how they're going to be with you. Be mindful of their dating history because you will learn a lot. All right, that is kind of paraphrased. And then number six, women should look out for each other just like men do. Number seven, avoid self-blame. Ghosting is a reflection of the other person's inability to communicate, and it's got nothing to do with your worth or value. They lack the ability to handle proper conversation. Number eight, don't chase after them. Reaching out repeatedly. Right, I don't think I got number eight on point. Did you want to repeat that for the people?
Yeah, sure. Number 8 is don't chase after them. Resist reaching out repeatedly for answers. If someone chooses to disappear, it's unlikely they will be able to provide the closure that you need. Closure often comes from within, not from the person who hurt you.
Magic. Yep, I really like that. And then number 9, healing is not linear. Ups and downs are normal. And I still have my lows, but every day is different. Hence, patience is required on the healing journey. And then number 10, don't hide your pain. Talk about it with friends and family and find a safe space to talk. Right. We got them, yeah?
Yes, we
Magic.
did.
Well, let's get into the story, Aisha. Tell me where you met Chomi and why you decided, let me give this guy a shot.
Okay, all right. So Chomi and I started speaking in 2023. Now, just to give you a bit of background, my church is a close-knit community, right? So majority of the time, you know people or you just know of them, but you don't really, know them that much, right? So Chomi and I were friends on Facebook. And to be quite honest, I don't remember who sent the who sent the friend request, but we were friends on Facebook, right? And he was just a person that was always active on social media, posting pictures and videos, right? And he's got this one hobby of his that he posts a lot, which is a chick magnet, I should say.
I'm tempted to ask what it is, but then it would just make it clearer who the person was.
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay, fine. I won't ask, but yes.
Right. So at some point in August of 2023, he started liking my posts on Facebook. Now, mind you, I'm not really a person that posts that much, right? But then I started noticing that, okay, fine, there's this guy that's liking my pictures a lot and my videos. So I decided to look up his profile and I liked what I saw.
What did you like about what you saw?
Well, like his pictures, like his selfies, he looked like a well-put person, organized, my type of guy. Tall, dark, and handsome.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then, so I said to myself, the next time that he was going to post something, I would like or comment on it. So he did post something on Facebook and I made a comment. I don't remember what it was exactly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, so I commented, he responded, and that's how it sparked our conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So, if online dating was a thing back in the day, you guys met via online dating, like.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Tell me how things proceeded then.
Okay, all right. So there was this one time, a favorite band of mine, based in Gweru, the Travis band, they were coming to Harare and they were going to perform.
Mm.
So this was like in September, right?
Yeah.
So they posted a flyer and I sent it to his inbox and I was like, you know what, there's this band. I absolutely love this band. Are you into jazz and stuff? And then he responded. And then he was like, yes, I am, but I haven't heard these guys play. And then he said maybe we could actually go to one of their shows. And I'm like, yeah, definitely we should.
Mm.
Right. So actually this was in August. So at that particular moment he was out of the country. So this guy, let's say he works in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he was still in Dubai and he said, I'm coming to Zim sometime in September, October. And the next time they do have a show, please do let me know. And I was like, no, that's fine. That's chilled. Right.
Mm.
And then I remembered because in between we were sending each other. So like at this point, we were speaking on Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
We just have random conversations or I would send a video or he would send a video and we'll talk about it and stuff like that. Right.
Mm.
And then, so the Travelers band was playing in September. So I sent it to him again. And he was like, tell you what, I'm actually in Zim.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around for a while. We should actually go to this. And I was like, yeah, sure, cool. So we spoke about it on Messenger. And then I had an afterthought. I think it was like on a Friday. So that like, this band was playing on Sunday.
Mm.
Right. So on Friday, I thought to myself, this is really random. How am I going to link up with this person at this place and listen to a jazz band? What if we don't vibe? So I started overthinking.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So then I sent him a message on Saturday and I was like, you know what? I'm so sorry to cancel. I've got a family thing that I can't cancel.
Mm-mm.
And then he was disappointed. He was like, I was really looking forward to it, but it's fine. I'm going to be in Zim for a while. So I'm sure in between we will link up. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I then said to him, I'm attending his service in his area, like a church service.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I said to him, I'm attending your service because my sister attends the same service as you guys and I'm visiting them. And then I was like, oh, that's cool. So I'll get to see it. I was like, yes.
Mm.
Right. So Sunday came, I went to church. And after church, I spoke to a few other people and then we started talking. And Pinto, I promise you, it's like I had known Tommy for the longest time.
Yeah.
We just hit it off. Like
Nice.
it was just flowing. And then I kept thinking to myself, oh my word, I've never hit it off with a person like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we spoke for the longest time. I think we spoke for like an hour at church. And then I was obviously getting the side eye from a lot of girls. And then like, why are you talking to him? That type of thing. Because I must say, he's definitely eye candy. The
Hey, okay.
well-put person and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after conversation, he went home, I went home, and he texted me on Messenger and he's like, you know what, this is my Zim number. Please do message me on WhatsApp. And I was like, sure, I will. So I didn't message him immediately. I just wanted to make him wait, like it was going to make a difference. But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I texted him and I was like, hey, this is Aisha. And he was like, oh, great. Thank you for messaging. Have a good day.
Mm.
So I thought to myself, okay, he kind of brushed me off, but I was like, I don't know. Probably he's busy. Right. And the next time we spoke, he was responding to a post of mine. And then we started talking. And then after a few conversations, I said to him, you know what, do you want to go out for lunch one of these days? And he was like, yes, I've been waiting for you to ask. I would really love to go.
You asked out a boy for lunch, yeah?
Yeah, I did. And then he said to me, I was a bit hesitant to ask because I didn't want to put pressure because the last time you cancelled and I didn't think you had a family thing. I just thought you didn't want to see me. And then we joked about it. And I was like, yes, I thought it was going to be random. So I really did cancel for no reason. And he was like, I knew it. So we just,
okay. Right. Okay.
yeah.
So I guess it didn't feel as bad asking him to come for lunch, right? Because yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I didn't. So we made arrangements and he came to pick me up. And tell you what, Tinto, I've dated a lot of frogs in my life.
A lot of frogs. Okay.
That was it. He was the guy, you know. So he came to pick me up. And again, it wasn't weird. It didn't feel like I had just met this guy for the second time. I barely knew him, but we really hit it off. The conversations were always on point, you know. So we drove to the place. So as we were driving, he was like, can you give me directions? Because I'm not really familiar with these spots in Harare. I've been out of them for the longest. And I'm not really in outgoing places. When I'm in them, I'm always at home and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay, fine, cool. So yeah, so I gave him directions. We went there, we had lunch, we had a traditional meal. Right. And the conversations were fire, you know. Like I said, it felt like we had known each other for the longest time. Anyway, so after that, he dropped me off home. And in the evening, he texted. Now, at that point, we were now texting on a daily basis. And the conversations were just lit, you know, instant blue tick. Everything was intentional. The conversations, I could tell that I had his attention when we were speaking on the phone. So initially, they were just messages, right? And then we started calling each other. And we started having 3-hour phone calls, 4 hours, 5 hours.
Wow.
Every single day, right? Now, sometime in November of 2023, he then said to me he was going to Zambia. He had a project there. So he told me of this trip on Friday. No, in fact, on Thursday. And he said he was leaving on Friday. And he said to me, I'm going to give you time to miss me. So I'll speak to you on Sunday. And then I had a big question mark. And I'm like, if you're going for a project or on a trip, it's still okay to text. But then I said, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to say anything because we're just talking.
Yeah.
You know. But I remember I said to my friend, this is so shady. Why is he dismissing me for the weekend? And then my friend was like, you know, just see how it goes. Don't start overthinking things because I'm known to overthink a lot of situations. But it was my intuition that was just saying, look out for them. Right. So we spoke on Thursday. Friday we spoke. He was at the airport and he sent me a selfie and he was like, you know what? It feels like I'm leaving my family behind. I'm going to miss you so much.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that is so sweet. You know, us girls. Yeah. And then, so we didn't speak much because I just said to myself, I'm not going to text him because he said, I'll text you on Sunday. Right. So I'm on Facebook, I'm going through posts and I see his post. He posted a picture of himself. Right. So it's like he got out of the car and he was opening his door. So he was standing behind the door and someone was taking a picture of him. And then I remember I looked at his face and I'm like, this facial expression, I wouldn't say it's a guy that took this picture. He just had this look on his face.
What look did he have, Aisha? That you can say this picture wasn't taken by a guy.
Yes, I could tell.
Oh. But what was the expression?
He looked smitten, honestly.
You looked smitten?
Yes.
Okay. Right, okay.
Right. And then I remember I looked at this picture for the longest. I'm like, no. You know, and then obviously I was like, probably he's gone to see his person or he's gone for a weekend away with his person. And I was like, anyways, we're just talking, you know, he's not under any obligation or anything like that. But what I did do is I took a picture of this post, right? And then Tommy wears glasses. So obviously there was a reflection of the person that was taking it.
You did not.
I did.
Wow, okay, I'll let you say it.
So I then zoomed the picture and then I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to my friend. And I was like, friend, look at this. And then she laughed. He was like, "You're being crazy." And I was like, "No, there is a silhouette of a very curvy person, right?" And then I was like, "I don't think this is a business trip or a project like he said." And then my friend
Right.
was like, "Don't ruin it by overthinking." And I was like, "You know what? Okay, fine. I'm not going to say anything, obviously, but this is what I think." So
Right.
I just probably gone for a trip or he's visited his person.
Mm-hmm.
And then anyway,
By now, you guys have been talking for how long?
so we had been like 3 months.
No, 3 months. Okay. And it's
Yeah.
still and it's still chummy vibes, right? Like friend vibes. What?
Yeah, show me vibes, but obviously a few flirts here and there, lingering hugs and stuff like that.
So you're just checking him out because you're looking at what your potential boyfriend might be up to at this point.
Exactly.
Okay,
At this,
fine. Yeah, due diligence. Let's call it that.
of course,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And then so when he came back, it was business as usual, the long calls, and then at this point we're spending every single weekend together.
Mm.
Right. Sometimes we'd even pop up at home and like would chill um close to my hood in the
Mm-hmm.
evening because I
Mm-hmm.
have a tight curfew.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we'll just be in the neighborhood, not doing anything major or anything like that, right?
Mm.
So this became a daily routine. And then I got a spa treat at some point, and that was actually the first spa treat that he funded. He was like, "Oh, you know what? I feel like you need to relax. I can't see you this weekend, but do something with your time. I want you to go for a spa treat." Now, I'm a homebody. So I was just that person. If I wasn't at church, work, or doing a side hustle, I would be at home.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "I know what, I think you should go out." So he sent me money via Western Union, and he was around, but he was just with family,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And then, um, so one of the days, he dropped me off at home. And my sibling said to me, "We need to know who you are with. It could just be a friend, but then we'd just like to know who you are with and who this person is."
Mm.
Right. So my siblings did know of him because obviously I was telling them everything. Right.
Mm.
Then they said he should come in to see us. So I told him this one time when he was dropping me home, I was like, "You know what? I think my family would be comfortable if they actually just came in and just said hi.
Mm. Mm.
Nothing serious, just a hi and whatnot." So he
Mm-hmm.
came in, he met my sister, they exchanged hugs, he was very pleasant. And he was sitting on one of the sofas, and I remember looking at him, I was like, "Oh my word, this guy is really comfortable around family. This is
Mm.
definitely a green flag."
Okay.
You know. And he was very comfortable, he was having conversations and everything, which is fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And several days later, I remember we went for ice cream. And after that, he dropped me home. And I messaged him and I said, "My sister's friend saw us together. And she asked my sister if you are still married."
What?
Right. So when I asked him this, I already knew of his history. Like I said earlier on, at times you know of someone, but you don't know like details of their life because our church is such a tight community.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. So
Mm.
I knew this guy was divorced, right?
And
But
this is from the conversations within the community, like you're saying, church community,
well,
small, whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
yes, exactly. So I wasn't really bothered or phased by it, but then I was just hoping that at least at month 3, he would have told me something about it,
Mm.
right? So then I lied to him, and then I said a friend of my sister saw us together, and then she asked my sister if you're still married, and I was like, so this came as a shock to me. Are you married?
Mm-hmm.
And then he laughed, and then he was like, "No, I'm not married. I'm divorced." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Do you have any kids?" And he was like, "No, I don't." And then he said, "I feel like it's still too early to talk about my ex because this was such a traumatic experience for me. I don't want to relive it."
Hmm.
Right.
Mm.
So immediately I did understand that because I've had traumatic experiences myself
Mm-hmm.
that I wouldn't really want to tell people quickly, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But tell you what, this guy, I remember was it on our third date or our fourth date? I did actually just tell him a bit of my experiences, like the most traumatic ones, because like I said, it's such a close community that at times people just know your business. So I was just like, you know what, I may as well just tell him before he hears it from someone, right? So I told him my experiences and it was fine. And then he then to me, I feel like it's still too early. And I also want to protect the dignity of my ex-wife. Hence, I don't just tell everyone what happened. And I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. That's understandable. I did respect that, you know. And then, so we would speak every single day. We would speak on Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, different conversations, even on TikTok, throughout the day, right? And everything was fine. And he was being a real sweetheart. Tinto, like he was very intentional. The communication was always on point. If he was leaving the house, he would tell me. If he was going for a meeting, if he was meeting up with his family, he would tell me. So it felt like I was part of his daily routine. Right. And then, so there was this one time we were speaking, and I asked him about his recent ex. So I asked him after he got divorced, had he seen other people? Because he said the divorce was recent. He got divorced in 2020, if not 2021. Right. And then I asked him, and I was like, so did you date anyone after you divorced? And he was like, yes. And I was like, please tell me about that. And then he told me that he dated this girl that moved to, say, America.
Yeah.
Right. And they vibed. They dated for like a year. But something personal happened to this girl, and she was now projecting her family issues onto him. And she was now putting pressure to get married. So the impression that he gave me was he had been dating this girl when she was in Zim, and then she moved to America. And when she moved to America, she was now putting pressure for them to get married because apparently she couldn't handle the distance.
Right.
And he said, I felt pressured to get married, and at that point he wasn't ready to do that. So they decided to end things.
Right.
Right. And he also told me of this girl that he met a while ago. They were friends, right? And then at that moment, it was just like a me and him situation. They would speak and stuff like that. Now, this girl then got the impression that they were in a relationship, and she was now trying to introduce him to the mom, and he wasn't ready for that. So he then decided to stop talking to this girl. So he just dropped her. So he said, I cut communications with her. I was avoiding her on every aspect. So this girl so he then says this girl visited him at his workplace, and he got a call from one of the security guards that say Tracy is downstairs. He wants to see you. And initially he refused to go downstairs, but then the guard then called him again, and then he was like, she's crying, and I don't understand why she's crying. It'll be best if you come downstairs and actually speak to her. So he went downstairs, and then he said this girl was crazy. She was causing a scene. She was crying as to why I wasn't speaking to her, why I had stopped talking to her, why I was avoiding her, and stuff like that. And when he told me of the story, it was after we were talking about people with obsessions, So he said this girl was obsessed with me, and she was crazy, and she had some mental health issues.
Right.
And I remember I thought to myself, I don't think so, because you clearly gave this girl attention and you guys spoke every day. So I wouldn't blame her for thinking that something was going to come out of your guys' communication. I would have obviously caught feelings if we spoke every day.
Well,
but then actually,
interestingly enough, you guys at this point are still just talking anyway, right?
Yes, we're talking, but obviously Tinto, we were kissing and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything official.
It's not obvious because you haven't told me, huh?
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
Like you've just, I mean, as far as it goes now, not that you had to, but it's good to know that little bit of information now.
Yeah.
Because whilst you're telling me the whole thing about talking about his exes and you're having this conversation, in my head I'm like, okay, there's difference between being chummies and speaking to someone who you potentially want to be with. Things in the past for some people are important, for some they're not important, but you're starting to dig quite a bit. But now that you've added the layer that you guys were kissing and you're doing stuff already, it wasn't then just regular
Exactly.
friends, was it? So what was it now?
Yeah. So now it was what I was sure of. Well, we were in a talking stage. He called it a talking stage, right? So it had so many layers to it. Now, considering the church background that we both had,
Mm-hmm.
dating in our community is date. It's just like your basic dating, right? But it's a bit more intentional. So he didn't want to put a label on it because of the commitment and accountability that came with it. Now, I didn't immediately realize it, but it's something that I realize now. In that moment, I thought, you know what, this person had a traumatic divorce experience. So maybe he just wants to go easy. So I was very lenient with him, right?
Okay.
But we're obviously behaving like girlfriend and boyfriend because at that point we're kissing, you know. And this happened at every date. Nothing heavy, but just that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like I said, he was very intentional and we spoke every single day. So in my mind, I was like, you know what?
Sorry, it's just funny how you say the guy says he's not trying to put a label to something, then you say he's very intentional. What is he intentional about?
Well, the communication and the spending time together. Like I thought this person was trying to get to know me before we actually got into a relationship.
Okay.
Right, like the talking stage. So for me, at that moment, I thought it was him being intentional in the talking stage. Obviously, we had crossed the lines of talking stage into dating because right now we're being physical.
Physical,
We
yeah,
were,
yeah.
yeah, stuff like that.
And this was what, 6 months in now, or?
No. I think it was month 4.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So this is December.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, everything is fine. Business as usual. We're getting along. No issues at all. No friction. It's like he was the perfect guy. Like honestly, Tinto, this guy was Mr. Charming. He did everything right.
Mm.
Anyways, so now when we did go out, right? Mind you, I had said this person, he didn't know places in Harare, Auntie.
Mm.
And he said to me I should be his tour guide because he was last in Zim ages ago, so he doesn't remember places. But what he did tell me was he had social anxiety and he didn't like crowded places.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So during that time, I thought the social anxiety was attributed to the fact that he had a messy divorce. Now, divorce in my community or in my church community is something that is frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't divorce a person. And when you do, people will look at you in a different light, right? So I thought, probably he just doesn't want to bump into people because we're such a small community. Someone might recognize him or me, and then they'll be like, Tommy is dating this girl, Aisha, and stuff like that. So the spots that I always picked were uptown and very white places, I must say, right? But we still enjoyed the places that we went to. We enjoyed going out and stuff like that. And mind you, every time I chose a place, his Google Maps would be on because he didn't know where we were going. And he was like, you know what, I don't trust women's directions, so let's just use Google Maps.
Okay.
Right. And Tinto, so when he wasn't with me, he was at work or he was working at home, well, from home, or he was just home resting, or he would be visiting family. He never mentioned friends. He said he didn't trust friends. He said he had so many disappointments and he just decided to stick to himself. Right. So he said to me in his spare time, in fact, before we had started going on these numerous dates, he said he would go to a popular restaurant in Mount Pleasant, Jamtree.
Yeah.
And then I asked him, I was like, so would you go by yourself? And he's like, yes. The staff know me. I'm always there by myself, chilling, just watching people do their thing. And then I thought to myself, wow, So this hunk of a person goes to a place by himself, spends the whole time by himself and not have any friends joining him. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is my type of guy. At least I thought. Right. And then so he went back to Dubai in February. Right. Now at this point, it was just so obvious that we're in a relationship, but nothing was said, nothing was formalized.
It was
Right.
obvious to who?
To both of us. Like we both just used to speak about it, but then I kept telling him I don't want to assume that I'm in a relationship. Things have to be said. And then he would always laugh and say, I will say it, you know. But clearly he said, you know what, we are definitely vibing. The interest is there, the attraction is there. I don't see why we shouldn't be an item. And then I was like, I agree, but I firmly believe that things have to be formally said because I would want an anniversary date,
Yeah.
right? So, anyways, so February came, he was leaving. And I'll tell you what, he's a hybrid worker. So he could actually work from Dubai or from Zim, and it wouldn't be an issue at all. So you'd notice that he could come to Zim like 4 or 5 times a year and spend months or weeks or whatever around. So he went back to Dubai. Obviously, it was very emotional. I was emotional. I was crying honestly because I was thinking to myself, "What if he just disappears? I'm already emotionally invested." But he promised me, he was like, "You know what? Nothing is going to change. In fact, the communication is going to get better." And then I took his word for it, right? So Tinto told me he moves to, well, goes back to Dubai. Everything is normal. We're calling each other, we're updating each other, everything. So at this point, we're now doing video calls and we would sleep on the call, and then wake up the next day, hang up, or you would call me again, trying to wake me up, and then, would continue. Right. And here and there, he would say to me he's going out with a friend from work, just a few drinks or someone from church, but I would be speaking to him the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. Or he would say, I'm going for my hobby. Right.
Which
So
was? What was his? Oh, the one that we don't want to talk about. The one
Yes,
that's a chick
exactly.
magnet. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So this hobby of his, he could go out anytime. So usually he went in the evening. Say he would text me, be like, I'm about to leave the house, say around 10 p.m. my time, and he would be back around 2 a.m. There would be evidence of this hobby. Well, I say evidence because he used to post a lot of pictures or videos of his hobby or him doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so that was like our routine. And then weekend, Friday night would have date night. Would spend say he would call me like around 7 p.m. and then would sleep on the phone. Saturday would be the same. Sunday would be the same. I was really a part of his life. It felt like we're living together. Right. Now, just to bring you back, when we were on these dates in Zim, right, we would obviously be taking pictures, which was like a green flag to me. Like we'll be selfies, holding hands, and stuff like that. And we had a shared album that he created, by the way, a shared folder online, so you would be uploading the pictures and stuff like that, right? And then anyways, so February, he came back in May of 2024. Right. So we easily went back into our routine of seeing each other every weekend, maybe once or twice during the week. Right. And we had made a list of places that we would go to on his next visit, which was the one in May. Right. At the top of our list was this place called Wild is Life, close to the airport.
Yeah.
Right. And then one Saturday, he then says to me, babe, guess where I'm going? And I'm like, where are you going? And then he's like, I'm going to Wild is Life. And I'm like, oh, okay. Who are you going with? And he said, I'm going with 2 of my cousins and they're bringing friends. And then I was like, so you're telling me that you're going to be the only one that's not partnered up? And then I was like, no, their friend is also bringing a friend. And I said to him, are you not being set up? And he was like, oh, no, it's not even like that. but then they're just bringing a third person, like the two girls were bringing a third person. I was like, okay, fine, you know, have fun, right? But then I guess he kind of picked up the vibe that I wasn't so happy about it because I questioned him, like, are you not being set up? You know? And then so we were communicating the whole time.
But for you, why would your mind go there so quickly?
I felt it. Like that intuition part, Tinto, like I felt it. You know, it just wasn't adding up. You know,
Okay.
it just wasn't adding up.
Right.
Now, naturally, I'm that person. At times, I could actually consider it as a toxic trait of mine. I always work with the worst case scenario, and I'm always thinking, what if this is going to happen or this is going to happen? Some might say it's being insecure, but it's not really like that. It's just me listening to my intuition or my gut feeling, right? So anyway, so on that Saturday, we were speaking, and then he was like, "I'm so annoyed. These guys are late, and we're stuck in traffic." Now that was during the time the roads were being reconstructed for the summit,
Yeah.
so some roads were blocked. So they then used the road that was blocked, and then they had to go the other way and stuff like that. So they got to that place late, and then I just said to him, "Not enjoy your time. I'll speak to you when you get home." And I was like, "Fine." And then he texted me around 8, and then he was like, "I'm back home." And I was like, "Oh, so did you have a good time?" He was like, "Yeah, it was okay, but then we didn't enjoy the full experience because we got late, because we got there late." And then I was like, "Please send pictures because I haven't been to this place, and I would love to see pictures." And then he just said, "Okay," and he didn't send them. So in the back of my mind, I was like, "I want to see those pictures." So I brought it up this another day or a few days later, and I was like, "You haven't sent me pictures of the wildest life experience that you went with your cousins." And then he was like, "Okay, let me send." So he sent one ugly picture,
Okay.
just one. And then I said to him, "That's the only picture you took, Shpanzi." "Yes, because my battery was low, etc., etc." Now, mind you, this guy had two phones. And then I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he said to me in the evening, he was like, "You know what? Why don't we go again on Saturday to this place?" And I said to him, "You want to go back?" And then he said to me, "Yes, I think I would enjoy the experience more with you. It was such a romantic experience, and I feel like I have to go it with my I have to go to it with my person, etc., etc." So yeah, he was being really sweet and stuff. And I said, "Yeah, sure, of course, let's go." And then we went, and then we took pictures and stuff like that. Right. And then so after that, things were fine. Like I never really had any issues, or we never really had any issues. And then I remember at some point, later in the year, like say early June, I got home late after my curfew time. And then my siblings weren't too chuffed about it. And then they said to me, "You know what, it's okay if this person is willing to drop you home and then actually come inside and then tell us that he was with you." You know,
Yay.
just to be
So,
accountable.
right. Okay. Right.
Yeah. And then I thought to myself, okay, because they were now saying the rate at which you guys are spending time together and you're always on the phone with him, you guys are dating. And then I remember I profusely refused. I was like, "No, we're not dating. We're still getting to know each other." And then they said that is the purpose of dating. You know.
Exactly.
You know. And then I was like, "We are in a talking stage." And then my sibling said to me, "Honestly, this talking stage is dating. It's people not wanting to be accountable, you know, because the rate at which you guys have been moving, you guys are a couple. And if you guys are a couple, this guy should be comfortable with just coming in and dropping you off. We don't expect anything of him. We don't expect lobola. We don't expect you guys to get married the next month, but we just want him to feel comfortable around your family, you know." And then guess what? I defended my guy and I was like, "No, we both have had bad experiences in dating and we don't want to rush into anything. So we'll ready." right? But in the back of my mind, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. We spent so much time together. Like literally, he's the only person that I spoke to during that time. So after one date, he dropped me off home. In fact, on our way home, my sibling called me and she was like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm on my way." And then she was like, "He has to come in because." So at this point, I was staying with my sister and my husband. So then she then said to me, you're putting me in a tight position because my husband wants to know who you are with because currently you're his responsibility because you're staying at his house, you know. And then I was, okay, we'll see how it goes. And then I told him, and Pinto, he changed. He was like, "I'm not doing that." And then he said, the moment your siblings start seeing me around, they're going to think this is going to lead to marriage. I would like to get to know you more. It's not that serious. I'm still trying to get to know you. I'm not about to marry you or anything like that. And he was like, "I don't appreciate being pressured." And I'm like, "You're not being pressured. I'm just telling you what is expected of you from my family because we're spending so much time together. You come to pick me up at my sister's place, right? You obviously have to drop me off, and then they would like, just as a courtesy, just come in and just say hi. You don't even have to say much, or just leave me by the door,
Yeah.
you know. And he wasn't having any of that. And then he was like, "If this is how things are going to be, I can't do this." And he just left it hanging.
Interesting
And then I
how
think
interesting how at the first sign of a form of accountability, which could have come in the form of him, one, asking you to be his girlfriend, he hasn't done. And two,
Exactly.
in this version of being accountable so that people know who you are and, they get more comfortable, he's backing out again. He wasn't really trying to be accountable, was he? For anything?
No. At that point, I didn't say it, Tinto. At that point, I thought this is just something obviously to do with his
Previous
bad
relationships
previous
/
relationships,
marriage.
stuff like that. So I was very lenient and I was very considerate of him, So I then said to him, "You know what? I really understand where you're coming from. It's fine. I'll work it out." And then he dropped me off. But then I remember when he said to me, "I can't do this," I left it hanging. And then I thought to myself, what does he mean? What does this mean? So I didn't say anything. I didn't respond to that. I just kept quiet. But he tried to correct it and we had another conversation. And then, so we were fine. No issues at all, mind you. Right. And then we were going back to Dubai in June, right? And this was early June when we had this conversation, and like mid June to end of June, he was leaving, right? And then he then said to me, "I remember you said to me you don't believe in being in a talking stage with someone for more than 6 months." And I said to him, "Yes." And then he was like, "I know I've exceeded my time." Right. Then I was like, "Well, kind of." So I started talking to him in 2023 August, right?
Yeah.
And then he then said we officially started talking in January, right? So the reason why he said we officially started talking in January is because that's when we had started kissing and being physical and stuff like that, right? So he said to me, "So I know we've been talking for 6 months, and I believe that it's time to take this to another level. I want you to be my person, and just mine alone. So will you be my girlfriend?" Yeah. So we made it official on the 24th of June.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, I was very excited. I didn't see it coming, but he was very sweet about it. Even his choice of words. Yeah. Everything was just fairy tale. And yeah, I was thinking, you know what? This is my last relationship. I'm finally off the street.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was going to lead to marriage. But anyways, so he went back. So he left for Dubai on the 26th. Everything was fine. Back to our usual routine, calls every day, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Weekends would have long video calls and stuff like that, right? And then before he left in June, he then said to me, "What do you think of coming to visit me in Dubai?" And I was like, "Yeah, that would be nice, but I'm a bit scared." And then I was like, oh well, no pressure. If ever you feel like you want to come over for a holiday, you've got a place to come to, So yeah. I was like, fine. And then I said to him later on that year, I said to him, in fact, I said to him in August, what if I come to Dubai in September? Right.
Yeah.
And he was all for the idea. He was very excited. And then he was like, so I'll get your visa ready sometime in September. And then I said to him, I just need to confirm my leave days. And then I then confirmed and then I said to him, I'll take the first 2 weeks of October off. So that's the time that I can come.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I'll start processing your visa last week of September. Right.
Mm.
So he did that. And then he sent me a picture of my visa. Well, he sent the PDF of the visa and I was like, your visa is ready. So just let me know when you come and I'll pay for the tickets. In fact, he didn't say I'll pay for the tickets. He just said we'll start processing the air tickets. Right. In my mind, Tinto, I kept on asking myself, I'm like, so who's supposed to pay for these tickets? Should I pay or should he pay? So it was just like a continuous debate that I had with myself because I've just always been that person that felt like I shouldn't always let a guy pay for everything. I should at least do something.
Right.
So that was like an ongoing debate in my head. And then I asked several people, and then they all said he's supposed to pay for it, right? And then obviously I had been saving up money to actually pay for the ticket just in case he wasn't going to. Or I told myself I was going to offer to pay one way and he would pay for the other one.
Right.
Right. And then I had family commitments that needed funding. Right. So then I sent him a message. I'm like, you know what? I'm not so sure if the first week of October is going to work. It might have to be the end of October. So mind you, my visa was valid for like a month.
Right.
Yeah. So I said to him, I might have to change the dates. And he said, don't worry. I've actually been meaning to tell you. His dad had like a medical emergency that he had to be in Zim for. Right. So he said to me, don't worry about that. I'm actually coming in October. Well, in fact, at that point, he said to me, I'm coming next week. Right. And then he said to me, so whatever we plan, I could actually go back to Dubai with him in case he wasn't staying for long, or we would just renew the visa when I had to go back. And then I was like, oh, okay, but I feel some type of way for having wasted your funds for the visa. And it's like, no, don't worry about it, etc., etc. Right. So he came to me in October, right? And I remember when he said to me, I've just landed, I had this pit in my stomach. I couldn't put a finger on it, but I had this gloomy feeling, you know. And then I just kept on wondering why. And then I thought to myself, what if the visit is going to be different? What if you're not going to? For some reason, I don't know why I actually felt that way. He hadn't presented any cases of pulling back or any suspicious business. He was behaving 100%. Right. Anyway, so he came and it took a week for me to actually see him because he said the car that he usually was using when he was in Zim had gone for repairs and the guys hadn't brought it back. But in my mind, I'm like, you could just use your dad's car because on several of our dates, he would come pick me up with his dad's car. I just always used to wonder, so why not using your dad's car?
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh well, family commitments and he's attending to his dad's medical condition. I'm not going to be selfish. So let me just give him time. So I gave him time. So I eventually met up with him and the vibe was different. I was all dressed up, excited for my date. So he was actually late because he was having car issues and then he ended up using his dad's car. And we met up at a popular restaurant. And then I remember feeling he looks tired or he's distant. But I thought to myself, I'm sure he's quite stressed because he had told me of his dad's condition and it was something serious. So I was like, okay, probably that's what's bothering him. Let me not make a fuss. Right? Anyway, so after the date, drop me off. So usually in all of our dates, he would text me when he got home. But this visit, he wasn't doing that. He would speak to me the next day, right?
Yo.
And then I was starting to notice that, right? And usually he was a person that would send me good morning, and the time difference between them and the country that he was in was just an hour. Right. So it didn't make sense as to why he was now texting me good morning around 10 or at 12
Mm.
p.m. You know. But anyways, I didn't pay much mind to it because I was like, he's going through a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, so communication was now very odd. He wasn't texting as much, he wasn't calling as much. And I only realized and noticed that I had last seen his WhatsApp statuses in October. So this was like now November, right? And then I hadn't seen any statuses of his, and he wasn't opening mine. So at times I would just post just to see that if he would open my statuses, but he wasn't opening them. And at times I would make reference to my statuses, and he wouldn't really say much. He would just avoid the conversation. Right? But he was very active on the other social media pages. So in my mind, I thought, well, maybe he's no longer posting because I don't post, and he's just trying to, match the energy or whatever. I didn't pay much mind to it, right? The communication was very low. Like I said, he wasn't calling Maneru. He would just say good night, or the good night messages wouldn't come. So now at this point, he was not texting good night. And that is just something that I value so much because it's like a person signing off and recognizing, because you know what, I need to say goodnight to this person.
Yeah.
Right. So he was now doing things that we spoke about, things that he said he never does. So obviously I brought it up several times and I was told the work excuse, I'm finishing work late and then I just sleep, or I'll be attending to family, etc., etc. I bought it because he was into finance and obviously end of year stuff like that. I was like, probably just busy. I didn't make a fuss out of it. But this happened. Now, mind you, he was that person whereby each time I brought up the texting communication thing, I would think would have like a fight or he would be rude about it or not, but he would actually entertain my concerns, address them, and I'll be thinking, okay, I feel better after this, right? But he wouldn't change. He would not text. So I got so frustrated to the point where I was like, what should I do? Right? Now, at this point, I said to myself, maybe I should put more effort. Right. So now I was working overtime, texting him good night, trying to call him. He was not picking up. He will not pick up my calls, money. Right. And then I'll be like, oh well. So obviously I got tired of it. Right. And then I remember there's this one time I lost it. In fact, it was after this one weekend, he went silent. We last spoke Saturday evening. Sunday, he didn't say anything. And then I was like, well, that's odd. This has never happened before. So I lost it on Monday. I'm like, I don't understand why you're doing this. Our communication is down. Now you're going silent for me, on me for a day. What is this supposed to mean? And he was like, wasn't feeling well. I'm not in the right frame of mind to be addressing this. I will respond to these messages once I'm feeling up for it, because right now I've got a cold. I've got a flu. And I thought to myself, okay, because he's the person that really got sick and he never had flu. He was the person that said, I really get flu. So he said to me, it's serious. I even went to the doctors and stuff like that. But here you are.
The flu is serious. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So then he said to me, and you are just making a fuss and whatnot. And I was like, I didn't know you were sick. Had you actually told me you weren't feeling well, I would have gone easy. I was like, so tell me, do you want anything? Is there any way I can help? Do you want me to make you a soup? And he was like, no, I'm okay. Why not? Why not? I'll speak to you when I can. And I left him. And then we started speaking on Wednesday. So we had this conversation on Monday. And then he addressed every single one of my messages. I think I sent him like 10 long paragraphs. And he responded to all of them. And he was very apologetic. He was very respectful.
But this was now on the Monday after the weekend.
Yes. Right. And he was very respectful. He was addressing and reassuring me and everything. And I felt fine. I was like, we're good. Right. But then subconsciously, I was working overtime, so to say. And I remember this one Thursday, one Wednesday, I said to him, what do you want to have for lunch? And then he told me. And then I was like, I'm thinking of making you lunch and then bringing it to you, to his place, that place. And then he was like, yeah, I would really appreciate that and whatnot and whatnot. So I finished work early. I made him lunch. I had to cook the meal proper. I put it in a casserole dish and everything, and then I took it to his place. He was in a meeting, but he managed to dash out because he was obviously working online, right? And then he got the meal. We spoke Maneru briefly, like around 7, and he went quiet. I spoke to him the next day, and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but if there's a problem, like he said, he will let me know.
Mm.
Right. So during my overtime hours, I then suggested to him, I was like, what if we go for a weekend away? Say we leave Friday, come back Sunday. And then he said to me, I'm up for it, but I just need to check my schedule at home and work and to see if it's possible.
Right.
So I so I suggested this on a Wednesday, and then Thursday, no, in fact Friday, he then said to me, you know what, I can't make it because we've got a family function. But I will see you on Saturday. No, on Sunday. So the family function was on Saturday, right?
Mm.
So he said, so I'll see you on Saturday instead. And I was like, great, that's fine. Sorry, on Sunday, right? So we spoke Saturday morning. He called me, we spoke briefly, but he was very dismissive on the call. Then I just thought, probably he's got stuff to do. So I'm not going to take much of his time. So we spoke, say, around 10 a.m. in the morning, ended the call on a good note, and he said he would speak to me later in the evening, right? Now, Saturday, I didn't bother texting him because I was like, you know what, he's with family and I don't want to bother him.
Yeah. Mm.
Right. So Saturday, I went about my business. I texted him around 10. I'm like, I'm home. I did this. I can't wait to see you on Sunday.
Mm.
And he was like, and he didn't respond, right? That was like around 10. And I was like, probably he's still with family. And then I tried to call him. In fact, I didn't call him that evening, but I assumed that on Sunday when I was going to wake up, I was going to wake up to messages, nothing. I tried to call him in the morning because we had made plans for Sunday and we had made a reservation for 3 p.m.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
So I tried to call him. He didn't pick up. I texted and texted. He didn't respond. I called. Now, at this point, I was checking his social and he was active on Facebook.
And
Right.
you're checking these socials, just as a proof of life.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
okay, yeah.
Just as proof of life,
Mm. Mm.
And then I thought to myself, probably he forgot his phone somewhere, and he's using his iPad to go on on Facebook.
Mm.
So I then decided to send him a message on Messenger. He didn't open it. I was like, okay, let me call. He didn't pick up. And I was like, I don't know any, but I'll text him around 12 or 1. Then I texted him around 1. I'm like, I just need to know if our plans are still in place because we're meeting up at 3 p.m. I need to know if you're picking me up or I could use my own car and stuff like that. No response.
Mm.
Obviously, I got pissed. At this point, I was now livid. I'm like, but you just canceled. Clearly, you are alive because you're active on Facebook. Nothing's happened to you, but why aren't you responding to my messages?
Mm.
Right. And then, so I call and call, nothing. And then I was like, I don't know what's happening. And then at this point, I was now panicking. And now I was sending a lot of messages. Why aren't you responding? Did I say something offensive? Is something happening? I just need to know if you're okay. Never mind the plans that we had, but I just need to know you're okay.
Mm.
Just to know that nothing's happened to you, no response. And then I'm like, what do I do? Right. So at that moment, I didn't know any of his family members, or in fact, none of them knew of me, but I did know them, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, let me call the brother. So the brother had his number on Facebook, like his business line,
Mm.
right? So I called the brother, they say Tom. So I called Tom at say 8 p.m. and I'm like, hey Tom, looking for Tommy,
Mm.
And then he's like, I'm not home, but I will call you once I get home.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. Right. And he's like, but I don't think I'm going to be home anytime soon because I've gone out. So I'll call you Monday morning. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I couldn't sleep until I had been calling Tommy nonstop at this point, sending so many messages. I was now acting like a crazy person out of frustration.
Mm.
And then Monday came, I called Tom. I'm like, hey, Tom, it's Aisha. I'm looking for Tommy. And then he's like, he's actually gone to the gym, but I'll call you when he's back. Now I'm even more livid. Like, you've actually gone to the gym. You're not dead. You're not lying in some ditch somewhere. You're actually,
Mm,
you know.
mm,
And they're like, okay, fine. Let me try calling him. So I tried to call him with my number. He wasn't picking up. I tried to call with my work number. He wasn't picking up. I've been calling, nothing. And then I called Tom. I'm like, Tom, is he back? And then he's like, yes, I've just spoken to him. He,
mm,
he said, I must tell you that he will reach out when he can.
mm.
Now, this was on a Monday, right? At this point, so this was like Monday, 9 a.m.
Mm.
At this point, I'm so frustrated. I'm out of ideas. I'm like, I've tried everything. I've called this guy on Skype. I've called him
You
on
called him
Messenger.
on Skype even. Wow. In 2024, yeah?
Yeah.
Jeez.
He wasn't picking up. I called him on Facebook. He wasn't picking up. I used different numbers, and I was like, probably, obviously, there's something going on. So in my mind, I was thinking probably something to do with the ex, right? So I told my sister what was happening, and then she was like, "Well, he's divorced, so I'm sure he's going through something. Just give him a bit of space."
Mm.
And I decided to stop calling, right? And then, Tinto, I left my phone at work because I didn't want to have that constant urge of calling him nonstop. So I told myself, like, by the time I come back to work on Tuesday, surely there are going to be a lot of missed calls and a lot of messages from this guy.
Mm.
That is me being hopeful. Tuesday, I get to work, nothing. No message, no call, nothing. Just
Wow.
great. And I'm like, what do I do? And I'm like, let me call. So I called Tinder. I was calling like a crazy person. Now, at this point, I had been crying. In fact, I started crying on Monday out of frustration because I didn't understand what was going on.
Mm.
So I'm just a ball of emotions at work. My eyes are swollen. I barely slept that evening because I didn't know what was going on. And I suffer from anxiety. So, that feeling and just all those emotions were taking a toll.
Mm.
Right. And then I was like, you know what? I've tried to do this the ethical way.
The
Let me try.
ethical way. Oh. Okay.
So, Tinto, I did what I did and I got access to his call log.
What did you do?
I can't say, but I hacked his system,
Mm.
which was very unhealthy. But I
Mhm.
had been depressive for the longest time. But in that moment, I felt like I had no choice.
Mm.
So I hacked his system and I got access to his call logs. And then I'm seeing there's a number that he's calling.
Mm.
Every night that he didn't say good night, he was on a call with this person. Not 30 minutes, not 20 minutes, 3 hours, 4 hours, stuff that we used to do.
Mm.
And Tinto, these were direct calls. This wasn't WhatsApp or anything like that. These were direct calls.
Mm.
And I'm shocked and I'm like, so the whole time you keep telling me that it's work, you're sleeping early or you're just falling asleep, family stuff when you're actually calling this person. So I found out about this person. I got her name, where she stays, and she stayed in the same area that he stayed when he was in Zim.
Mm.
I was like, oh, okay, all right. Now the bad thing that I did was I called this girl, and we are going to call her Panache.
Mhm.
So I called Panache, and then I said, I've got a delivery for you, but I just wanted to confirm if this is Panache so and so, and you stay in Westgate. And then she's like, yes, it's me, right? And then she then says to me, sorry, who's this? And then I said to her, I've got a delivery for you, for flowers. And then she's like, who are they from? And then I mentioned some random name. And it's
Mhm.
like, I don't know this. Please take them back. I don't want them.
Mm.
Right? And I'm like, okay. And then I hung the call. And then she tried to call me back. But at that moment, I was in a meeting at work. Right. No, so after that call, I really felt bad. And I was like, I shouldn't have handled this way. I just acted out of emotions. I shouldn't have done that. Right. So at this point, I'm obviously angry. I'm pissed. I'm like, so, there's someone else, but I don't understand how there's someone else because we literally spend time together. We were communicating the whole time. So when I checked his call logs, these calls had started late October into November, which is when I noticed a change in him.
Mhm.
Right. All this communication nonsense. It started late October into November.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, this kind of makes sense. I was a mess because I was like, so this guy is dating this person, or this guy is, fumbling on the side with other people when I genuinely felt I was the only person, because to the amount of time we spent together, it didn't even make sense as to how and
How I was
why
able to do it, yeah.
exactly. So I get home, I'm a mess, I'm crying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then I then had another crazy thought. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna send this girl our pictures. Right? So what do? I do a screen record of some of our pictures with Toby. So I then sent it to Panache and then I put it on view once. And then I said, I'm dating this guy. Right. And then immediately after I did that, I felt bad. I was like, no, this is not the way to handle it. I don't understand why I keep doing this. Now, I wanted to apologize to Panate, but then she had already blocked me. Right.
Eish.
So now, yeah. So now I was feeling bad and silly. And I was like, you know what? I'm being a teenager about this. I should have just had a conversation with her from the start.
Or not have conversation at all.
Exactly. So I then realized that this Panache was actually from my church as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, I made a huge mistake. This is not how I'm supposed to handle this.
How did you clock that she was from your church as well?
On Facebook, I saw mutual friends, and then I asked one of our mutual friends if they knew her, and then
Okay.
Yeah. So then I tried to call her the first time she didn't pick up, and then the second time she answered, and I was like, you know what? I would love to apologize. I am so sorry. I know it felt like an attack. I wasn't supposed to do that. My apologies. And then she was like, "Hi, it's fine." And then she was like, "So how can I help you?" And I was like, you know what? I've got a story to tell you, right? And I'm trying to make sense. The person that is supposed to give me answers is not responding. I'm just trying to understand what is happening here. I'm seeking closure because the person that I'm supposed to get it from is not speaking to me, but I know he's okay. And then I was like, so I'm just going to tell you my story, right? So I told her literally everything. And on the call, she wasn't surprised until she wasn't even concerned. She was just like, oh, okay. So I just found it. And I'm like, so how long have you guys been together? And then she said to me, 3 years.
Yo.
And I'm like, so in those 3 years, you haven't noticed a change in your person. I noticed a change in him the moment he started changing. And we've been together for like what? 4 or 5 months now. And I noticed a change just a few weeks ago. And he's like, and then she was like, that's probably because I travel a lot. She was very dismissive. And then I was just like, oh, well, okay. And then I was like, if you've got any questions for me, I'm available. Text me or whatever. And then she said, no, I don't have any questions for you. That was it. I was like, oh, I felt very small and silly for having actually reached out to this person.
Right.
So now I am stewing on my own. I'm trying to understand. I'm emotional. I'm like, so how could you do this to me? Why not? Why not? And then I reach out to a mutual friend of ours. Right. And then, so this mutual friend of ours didn't know that we were now, or in fact, she didn't know that we were dating or doing whatever that we were doing. So I told her, and then she was like, I've never known him to do that. I was very surprised. And then she was like, probably you just wait, see if he reaches out. I was like, okay, that's fine. And then a few days later, she was like, you know what? I wasn't completely honest with you.
Oh.
He's done that to someone.
Oh.
And she said, he did the exact same thing. And she's like, we all wondered what's wrong with him, but it's it seems like that is just who he is, right? So I was kind of getting satisfaction from knowing that he did that to someone else. Now, in my crazy spur, I then decided to look for the ex that moved, like his ex-girlfriend.
Yay! The Aisha, why were you getting yourself so busy and so involved in this? As far as you're concerned, you've just found out that your man is with somebody else. Wasn't that enough for you?
At that point, Tinto, I thought I needed closure. And I thought that was the best way to get the closure because I wanted, which is one of my...
Yeah, it's one of your lessons. Yeah.
So I reached out to this ex. She's in Canada. And she's wondering, why is this person calling me? And I then told her And then she started laughing, and she's like, "Oh, he did it again." And I was like,
Oh.
and then she's like, "Oh, he did it again." And then she told me her story,
Yeah.
which the exact same thing
Had happened to you.
that so this happened to her like twice. This happened to her twice. She said, I I just want to tell you that you're not crazy. And he's the one that is a douchebag. She's like, you're not crazy for how you feel. Your feelings are valid. She was like, I went through the most with this person. Yeah. She was like, he emotionally drained me. And this is what he did. And it was exactly what he did to me. Now, in some of the conversations that I would have with both of these girls,
Yeah.
we would both realize that the same conversations that he had with these two girls were the same conversations that he
He
would
was
have
having
me.
with
So it's
you.
like, yeah, so it's like he would recycle his conversations with different people. That's how you know. And I just thought to myself, what a cycle, right? Now, the last message that he sent to me was when I sent him a message a week later. And I was like, I'm not proud of how I handled things. I reached out to your person. I'm sorry. I should have just come. In fact, I tried to come to you directly, but you weren't responding. But could I please have my stuff? Because he had a few of our cutlery dishes at his place because I'll be cooking for him and taking it to him here. And then that's the time he responded. Now, what he was doing was all the messages that I had been sending to him, it's like he removed his blue tick, but he was opening my messages, right? Now, I noticed this. Yeah. So I noticed this when I sent him a message asking for my stuff back, and it turned blue, right? Like the text turned blue. And then he said to me, I'm sorry, it took me this long to return the stuff to you, but I will arrange and have it delivered to you. He wasn't bringing it himself. He was going to send someone. And then he said to me, as to how you handled the whole situation, he said to me, you moved the way you wanted to move. I don't hold it against you. And then he said, we were eventually supposed to have this conversation, but I don't appreciate being intimidated and threatened into having conversations.
Zero accountability again.
Exactly. And then he said, our narrative of events will forever be different. Imagine, I was like, what do you mean? And then he said, I'm not about to have a back and forth with you. That's not why I responded. So take care of yourself. That was it. Yeah. So we last spoke on that conversation. We had it on the 28th of November, and till to date, he has not texted, he has not messaged. That is what happened.
And guess what? You will never hear from you'll never hear again, ever.
Exactly.
Because he's exposed. And he knows. Man, this is so frustrating and so annoying that people can still want to try and hide behind stories being different purely because they don't want to be held accountable.
Exactly.
And for him, it's just a case of, oh, okay, well, I'm done with this one. This one is now out in the open. Let me try and move on to the next best thing. Because the stories are consistent between all the two girls. What a damn shame.
Yeah. Hectic, right?
Yeah, no, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're all the better for it because now you don't need to deal with somebody who's got accountability issues. You can have a bit more control. And I hope one of the key things that you take away from this is if a guy is not coming out clear about what he wants, don't hang around.
Exactly.
There's really no point hanging around because if a guy is not willing to be accountable for things from the onset, he's not ready to give you what you need.
No. Not even.
Well, thanks for that. I'll just play back your lessons. Number one, never keep a relationship a secret. It should be private, but not a secret. That whole social anxiety thing, bullshit. Right? We just didn't want to be seen out in public with you. Number two, never downplay your intuition. That little voice that whispers to you about different things. Listen to it. Yeah, and your intuition did tell you when he landed that, something is off. And his whole demeanor and behavior was different. Number 3, manage your expectations. It's funny how he'd always would tell you this because he was really telling you, yo, this ain't going nowhere. But you had no better way of knowing. Not all relationships lead to marriage. Number 4, when a person speaks, listen. Half the time, they tell you who they are with random conversations. Yeah, I think he was basically telling you, I'm not the commitment type. I still want to have a bit of fun.
Exactly.
And when you find out that I wanted to have fun, I told you, don't be holding me accountable for whatever it is that you find out. Number 5, how a person treated as ex is how they will treat you, and how they speak of them will be the same of you. Be mindful of their dating history. You will learn a lot. Amen to that. If you had known about the 2 girls and how he had dealt with them in the past, you would have been like, oh, this is exactly what's happening to me. I'm out. Number 6, women should look out for each other just like men do. I guess you're talking about the guys we're talking about saying he's gone to the gym and blah, blah, blah. Yes, please do that. Number 7, avoid self-blame. Ghosting is a reflection of the other person's inability to communicate and not to do with your worth or value. They lack the ability to handle a proper conversation. Yes, on multiple times you tried to get him to say, what are we? He had a story. He decided what you guys were on his terms, but even then would not have the accountability conversation when things went south. Number 8, don't chase after men. Resist reaching out repeatedly for answers. If they choose to disappear, they won't provide closure you need. Closure comes from within and not from the person who hurt you. Number 8 is really powerful. And if I could point people in that direction who are really struggling to let something go, please, 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 do not look for that closure in someone. For all you know, they've already moved on and they're trying on the next thing. I don't think accountability is inborn. It's something you learn over time. And if they haven't learned what that looks like, please just leave them to be masters of their own destruction. Number 9, healing is not linear. Ups and downs are normal. I still have my lows, but every day is different. Hence, patience is required for healing. Amen to that. And then last but not least, don't hide your pain. Talk about it with friends or family, or find a safe space to talk about it. Again, that's a really, really, really good shout. Aisha, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tinto.
You're welcome. And you've been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward in next week's episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over. Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Rudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Love is a fire.
Rudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.